I'm going to go through a bunch of things. I'm going to go through examples of why, of what you're supposed to have and what the city says it has, and reasons why the city can say that, and then I'm going to give you some specific examples that just, you go, well, clearly that's not happening. So that's the overview. So the beauty of a master plan is everybody, if you go to a lot of community meetings like you all nowadays do, is what you understand is that everybody has an issue, right? And that's the only thing a lot of people just care about the one thing. Some of the people are just affordable housing, right? And some of the people about transportation. But if we can get everybody to work together, the master plan addresses everybody's concerns. It should be something that pulls people together, right? And so it comes down to this section of Mass State Law, and this is directly from it. It says a statement through text, maps, illustrations, right? There's no illustrations in the zoning ordinance, right? It says to provide a basis for making decisions, right? So when the planning board's making these huge decisions about people's lives, they're eliminating 100% of parking in some cases. That's what they're asked to do in Harvard Square. And there's no basis for these decisions because the fundamental information is supposed to be collated in the master plan. So it's all, and that's this. This can be no good faith basis. Those are just guys sitting up there arbitrarily just deciding whether they want. Here it is. The city manager runs, everybody serves at the city manager's whim, right? Except for a few elected people, right? And here it is. The city says it has a master plan. And it says it's the zoning map, the zoning ordinance, and the policy document. In Mass State law, they actually say there's a master plan and then there's a zoning ordinance. This is not true. It's absolutely not true. And this, even if this were true, this document is 7 years old. Then they say, wow, then we can have all these other documents. Look at this. This is the most recent, 2012. All these others, 1998. We're making decisions on 1998 documents. Now there's a 2010 in here, but 2010 is 4 years ago. I maintain you should update this thing every 3 years. Here, once again, they list all these things. There's 2011, 2012, 1987. This is what they're referencing. Just to drive a nail in the coffin is the Robert Winters April Fool's edition last year reviled me, and it says it's the zoning ordinance, but Robert Winters SquarePants. It's clearly not true. He knows it's a joke. This is very interesting. I went through the state ethics law, and I went through the Cambridge Code of Conduct, which one of our counselors said he was going to change. This is what the Code of Conduct says is prohibited and you can be dismissed for. Nothing about discrimination, retaliation, or truth-telling, or obeying state law. That's not required. Not required. So we go right into it. So it has 9 elements. Remember we saw the list 1 through 9. Goals and policies, right? To determine community values and goals consistent with the goals. We've been telling people what we want. Lots of people have been saying what we want. And what we want is actually in the goals document, right on policy number 1. Policy number 1, and it's constantly ignored. Policy number 2, once again, it should be the way it was historically is. We shouldn't be putting biolabs in the residential areas. We shouldn't be doing this and that. These policies that are in the policy document, which is 7 years old, are routinely ignored. Land use. It talks about everything we talk about. Density, intensity, and then the capacity. And you're supposed to have a plan that lays out everything and knows what's there on the ground. Instead, we approve H-Mart when there's not enough electricity to run the ovens. They can't open for, a year? Something like that. So,
And then Essex Street builds the transformers that they need.
right. So the housing element. We should know, we should have as a public document that you can just call up, go to the website, the existing and forecasting housing needs. And here it is, provide a balance of local housing opportunities for all citizens, right? Anyone think we have that? Okay. Not only do we not have a plan, in the housing, there's no plan, but we asked for all this information on July 30th, 2012. And you know, these policy orders, like on this foundry policy order, right? It doesn't mean a lot, because here's a policy order. What happens is when Healy goes away, they flushed all the policy orders. And at the end of every term, when they're swearing in a new council, they flush all the policy orders. They never obeyed this one. And then, but wait, we were asked before, in September 2011, for all these things. Here's the Nexus study, and they declined to give us any of this information. They declined. The city council, Leland Chung, submitted this policy order, and the city council, they didn't produce the documents for the city council. Because it's the city manager, he doesn't have to. So not only is there no plan, but they're withholding the underlying information that we could use on a daily basis to debunk some of this stuff. Economic development, we're doing really well here. MIT Forest City bought development rights worth at least $100 a square foot for $10 a square foot. We are open for business here. You know, business is, I'm just not gonna say, I think business is doing great in Cambridge. And I think there's reasons why, and Nancy pointed out, is that, yeah, they're paying 1/3 of what Somerville pays for incentive. 1/3.
And half of what we should be paying.
No, we should be paying, they should be paying the same as Somerville. It's only 100 feet away,
Yeah.
right? Okay, natural and cultural resources element. This is the foundry, this is the Silver Maple Forest, this is building on the floodplain. We're supposed to have a guidance document with the strategies. Now in Faucet Oil, the first thing is there's a loophole that allows building 35 feet high within 7.5 feet of linear park. Linear park is what makes my neighborhood nice, right? And it's narrow, it's delicate, it's fragile, and we can't get that changed. And Faucet's the reason why. The largest community garden, Faucet bought that property, and now they're going to build condos on it. The largest community, and the city has a standing offer for it. We won't sell it. So another neighborhood institution, the Marino Clinic, they're not planning to supply any parking for them. There was lots of land. There's no parking. Do you
Are they
think that was
rebuilding or something, or is it just?
What?
Are they rebuilding or something?
The
or is it
Marino
just-
Clinic? No, the Marino Clinic at least had long-term lease for parking spaces
Oh.
for Faucet. They're just gone. That building could very easily relocate now, and because it's now Mount Auburn owns all the stuff on the other side of Alewife, right? So up on Concord Ave. So we could lose that, and the dance studio is gone. It's in Somerville. Cambridge doesn't, this one project attacks 4 of our neighborhood institutions, right? And we're working to try to save one of them because we've lost on the other 2, right? So, and this overlaps, but, open space and recreation, there's strategies for the management and protection, right? So, services, facilities. Someone asked the planning board, well, will the sewers handle it? The answer is always yes. The city is always yes. Now, occasionally in my neighborhood, like on Norris Street, the developer actually has to replace the water main. On Cottage Park Ave, the developer didn't feel like it. He's a buddy with the counselor, and he got to connect to another street. So let me see. And then there's the whole thing on New Street being too narrow, and so we have, as Carl Owen said, New Street should be widened this is the property they want to put 93 units, basically 100 units. In New Street has a little parking on it. And Dennis says, well, we should take parkland so that we don't have to, so this guy can build a really big building instead of a smaller
For
building.
those who can't tell, that's Danny Park right in the middle.
So this is Danahy Park. There's the Rotary at Laundromat, right? And this is Whole Foods over here. Here's the Parkway over here. Here's Staples. Here's the theater, right? So this is a cut through to the mall. And now, if you actually had planning, they talked about how this rail line is not used, and they talked about, well, maybe a bike path. Well, it's a bike path to nowhere because it goes to the Parkway, and the crossing is over here, right? In real life, with real planning, you'd have a land swap. You would take this building and you'd give it this land over here, and that would give you the land up front here, all along here. These owners could all get land back here, and now you could widen New Street. If you had a plan, if you actually thought about the capacity of your streets, rather than getting a development at a time and going, oh, well, this is just another 93 units, it doesn't matter. Circulation, which is basically transportation. And so what we know is, for instance, we know, but it's not written in any city documents, we have to go and say, and cite the hub and spoke report, and Fred Salvucci. Red lines at capacity, the red line cars without seats discontinued, the urban rings discontinued. There's a basic misunderstanding of bicycle capacity. Talk about Grand Junction being a bike path instead of, moving thousands of people. So this is also what comes out of this, like, oh, well, we'll only look at this area. And this is Steve Kaiser caught them, is they go, all these intersections, when this is built out in 2030, all these intersections are just fine. But if you look at all of Cambridge, it's not fine because there's a ring of red around all that green. And that red is there today. So so the question is, do you have a master plan? The city says you do, but there's stuff like this which says clearly you don't. And this is the evidence that even if those documents were what they said they are, which they're not, you come up with stuff like this. So it's clear. You have evidence. So implementation. Now, no one's ever seen this. It's a schedule, specific municipal actions. Costs and revenues shall be detailed. That is not in the zoning ordinance. I've never seen it. So this is what I did a long time ago, and this is what Richard has done. Basically, I maintain, and this is my personal opinion, is that this decade that we're in now, we will build more in Cambridge than in the previous 50 years. So do you think you need a plan? Do you think? Or do you think there is a plan? Those are the two questions we're asking today.
The answer to both is yes.
And this is so here's Fresh Pond.
They're not telling us
No,
about
it's
it.
not an master plan.
Oh, yes, it is.
So here's Fresh Pond. This is the old number. I had 2338, and we got another 500 units just coming to be permitted. So, does anyone? Apparently, there's nothing wrong with 500 more units. So I got this. I thought this was great. He seems to be locally famous among some people. I hadn't run across him before. He goes, "This is the bicycle safety guy, expert witness. His credentials, and I love these quotes. Cambridge planning is disorganized. Bicycle planning occurs in a fantasy land, and every time we go to a public meeting, there's bicycles this, bicycles that, cycle tracks here, painted lines there. We're doing all this wonderful stuff, and he says it's not right. And then is to break down resistance by making the problem so pressing that the pain becomes intolerable. And I think that's why we see the Fresh Pond Residents Alliance So just one more focus on Fresh Pond is, so they're sort of like a little upset by another 100 units on New Street, and the Cambridge Redevelopment Authority, 2 out of their 10 things is going, well, let's go build more in Fresh Pond Airway, like a lot more. 94 acres, 16 acres, and this goes auto-oriented retail center. What they're talking about in the quadrangle is this. So this is the 94 acres, and this is Fawcett Street, which you live in. The 429 units just got built. They're talking about building a bridge over here at our expense of $20 million. We just wrote a check for $375,000 to do a study, though I think some of the developers contributed to that. But they want to connect this whole area over to the Teague. So more developers can make more money, and I think we pay the $20 million. But anyways, just to go on, this is the city's org chart, which shows the voters on top. My chart shows the voters over here and incredible power and authority in these 2 lanes over here. And so when you talk about getting a master plan is done by the city staff, voted on by the planning board. These things happen by policy orders are issued, but as we saw when we went and asked for data from the city, just the data of documents they have in their desks, we don't get it. So you have to think about a master plan. How does it relate to this diagram? Because I tell you what, it does not happen here, because the voters have nothing to do with these guys and very little to do with this guy.
Wait, Charlie, is that by law that the city staff and city manager only give that to the planning board? Could it be changed by the city council that they
What?
should have?
No, this
Master plan should be given to them?
No. Look, this isn't about the master plan per se. This is the way the city laid out by law. This line here means that the city manager appoints these people for terms. That's it. He's not supposed to tell them what to do ever again. Right? He can have a hearing and take someone off the planning board for a cause. Doesn't say what cause is, but that's it. The planning board is not supposed to answer to the city manager, and it certainly doesn't answer to the voters.
And you could put the Cambridge Housing Authority in that box as well.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that's a good call. Okay, but my point is a master plan will get generated, should get generated by the city staff, but it gets voted on and approved by the planning board. It doesn't get voted on and approved by city councilors.
Don't they have to ratify, don't the city council have to approve the master plan?
No.
Is it specified in the state legislation that the planning board?
Planning board.
It is?
A planning
By
board.
state law?
By state law. Now, here's an interesting thing, is that this in towns, the Attorney General reviews what goes in the zoning ordinance. The reason why our zoning, which is one of the reasons why our zoning law is so messed up, because cities are given broad discretion. So we can take control. We can amend the zoning ordinance. The citizens can cause that to happen, and we can take control, and we could make a requirement to have a current master plan voted on by elected officials. We can do this. It's a matter of, and this is just a matter of moral willpower.
How would we do that in practical terms?
Zoning amendment. 10 signatures, $150.
It would mandate a master plan?
But if you're going to do that, a lot of stuff would come to a grinding halt. So you would have to have like a lot of people with you, citywide. But, and this gets back, there's something for everybody, for every diverse group. Everybody. We have the green people, we have the park people, and the dog people, we have housing, we have everybody. But the trouble with these groups, and you see it especially in the sustainability groups, is that they have their one little thing. And what I see is that over and over again, is they get their one little thing and then they go over to the other side. That's why I say loyalty. But if you can get people citywide buying into, we need all of these things, and we'll all stand together, I think you can get somewhere.
Let's
And
conclude
that's
this.
the last line. No,
Great.
that
Thank
was
you.
it.
This is great.